Alrighty there, guys. Let's wrap up this lesson 8.5, talking about why we factor and why we do this. We do this to solve equations eventually. In solving an equation, we want to set up factors so that you have a multiplication problem, a product. And you want that product eventually in the equation to equal 0. Because if things multiply to equal 0, you know that at least one of them has to be 0. So for instance, if A times B is 0, that means that A could be 0 or B could be 0. If A is 0, it doesn't matter what B is. 0 times anything is 0, and vice versa with B. So that's what the zero product property says. If the product of two factors is 0, then at least one of those factors must be 0. It could be more than two factors also, as we get into these more complicated equations. Let's take a look. Here you have an equation equaling 0. And on the left-hand side, you already have the two factors. This might have been factored for what you know now by using factoring by grouping. So you've got x minus 2 and 4x minus 1. These multiply right here to equal 0. That means that one of these parentheses has to be 0. Well, the first misconception is, well, then x equals 0. That doesn't work. So you put 0 in for x, 0 minus 2, not 0. And 4 times 0 minus 1, not 0. So x doesn't equal 0, but the parentheses, the entire thing equals 0. So what they're going to do is they're going to use that zero product property to say that one of those binomial parentheses, either x minus 2 or 4x minus 1, has to equal 0. So really you take your single equation and break it up into two separate equations equaling 0, like that. X minus 2 could be 0, or 4x minus 1 could be 0, and solve each one of them. And if you do that, you're actually going to get two answers. So if I solve this, I would add 2 to both sides. And if I solve this, I would add 1 and then divide by 4. Now we get the answers that x is equal to 2 and x is equal to 1/4. So for this equation, you have two answers. There could be 2 or 1/4. Notice they call the answers the roots. We'll figure out what that means later on when we talk about graphing these. But solutions and roots are synonymous words. So if you see the word roots, it means answers or solutions. So 2 could be one of the answers. Let's go back and real fast and check it. If I put 2 back into this first parentheses, 2 minus 2 is 0. There's your 0. So if I put 2 into this parentheses also, 4 times 2 minus 1 is 7. Well, that's not 0, but it doesn't matter because 0 times 7 is 0. And vice versa, if I put that 1/4 back in these two equations, 1/4 will make this parentheses 0, not that one, but you only need one to equal 0. Okay? It also works when it's not already factored. Here's an equation that's not factored yet. 4y equals 12y squared. Doesn't equal 0. So before I do anything else, I have to make the equation equal 0. Your choices, you could either subtract 4y from both sides, or if you wanted to, you could subtract 12y squared from both sides. It doesn't matter which one you do, but you want to get all of these terms on one side of the equation and equaling 0 on the other side. So they're going to subtract 12y squared from both sides. So you get 4y minus 12y squared is equal to 0. This is a binomial. And how do we factor binomials so far? All you know, GCF, greatest common factor. The greatest common factor of 4y and negative 12y squared would be 4y. So the GCF is 4y, divide it out, and you're left over with 1 minus 3y, and that equals 0. So now I have two factors. I have 1 minus 3y, the parentheses, and I have 4y. One of these two things has to equal 0. You could take this 4y and put it in parentheses if you want. If that makes you more comfortable, you could go like this. 4y is equal to 0. You don't have to, but you could. So one of them has to equal 0. So they're going to make two separate equations, where 4y is equal to 0, or 1 minus 3y is equal to 0, and solve them both. Well, just divide by 4 on both sides. In this case, y is equal to 0. Here they subtracted 1 and divide by negative 3, and y would equal 1/3. Don't make it a decimal, leave it as a fraction. So you got two possible answers, 0 for y or 1/3 for y. If you put these back into this original equation and multiply it out, square and do all those fun things, you'll find out that the equation does equal 0. Okay? That's all I have for now for that, and I'll be right back. And just like that, I'm back. I'm going to solve 5 of these for you. I'll show you 5 different kinds of examples. First one's already factored for you and already equals 0. So one of these two factors is 0. Again, if you want to, you can put that 4b in parentheses. That's up to you. So either 4b is 0 or b plus 4 is 0. So that means I'm going to make two equations. Either 4b is equal to 0 or b plus 4 is equal to 0. I'll solve them each separately. Divide both sides by 4. That's an easy one. B is equal to 0. And this one I'll subtract 4 from both sides. And b is equal to -4. So you get two possible answers. And really, you should write your answers together kind of like this. You would say that b is equal to 0 or -4. Or if you really want to be technical, you should say -4 first, because you should list them from least to greatest. Just whatever you do, do not put these in parentheses, because if you put in parentheses, now it looks like a coordinate. If you want to put them in anything, you don't have to. If you want to put them in anything, you put them in braces. And you know I can't draw braces when I'm doing it with my hand, let alone with a mouse. So sorry about my braces there. Okay. Let's take a look at another one. Also factored already. I have the binomial y minus 3 times the binomial y plus 2 equals 0. So one of these two parentheses has to be 0. So I'll make two separate equations to solve to get my two answers. Either y minus 3 is going to make my 0, or y plus 2 is going to make my 0. So I'll solve each one. I'll add 3 to both sides. And y is equal to 3. And I'll subtract 2 from both sides on this one. And y will be equal to -2. So together, technically, as a final answer, my answer is y is equal to -2 or 3. Also pre-factored, but now there's all kinds of coefficients and stuff. Just want to work this one out for you. It already equals 0, that's good. So that means that one of these two parentheses has to have an answer of 0 to make a product of 0. So I'll make my two equations. 4y plus 8 equal to 0, or 3y minus 4 equal to 0. So I'll subtract 8 from both sides and divide by 4, and y would equal -8 over 4, which is -2. I'll add 4 to both sides and divide by 3, so y is equal to +4 thirds. Oop. So my final answer is y is equal to -2 or 4 thirds. Okay. Not so good this time. Doesn't equal 0, so I have to make it equal 0. I can either move this 9x squared to the right or move the 27x to the left. I'm going to move the 27x to the left. So I'd subtract it from both sides. So now 9x squared minus 27x is equal to 0. And now I'll factor this GCF. I have to have a product. This is a difference. So a product equals 0 to use that 0 product property. So my GCF of 9x squared and -27x would be 9x. Now divide that 9x out of both terms. That leaves me with an x there, minus a 3 there. is equal to 0. And like I said, if you want to, you can put that 9x in parentheses to show that this is a product with that. So now either 9x has to equal 0 or x minus 3 has to equal 0. Divide by 9, x is equal to 0. Add 3, x equal to 3. So the final answer is x is equal to 0 or 3. Notice I keep getting two answers. I kind of relate to the fact that the highest exponent here, the highest degree, is the second power. Won't always be the case, but that's kind of a common way to figure out. Last one, doesn't equal 0. I'm going to take this negative 21x and move it to the left. It's going to become a positive 21x. So 14x squared plus 21x is equal to 0. Now my equation equals 0. I can factor this left side. It's a binomial. I'm going to look for a GCF. The GCF is 7x. That leaves me in the parentheses 2x plus 3 is equal to 0. So either the first factor, 7x, has to be 0, or the second factor, 2x plus 3, has to be 0. Solve each one. Divide by 7. X is 0. Or subtract 3, divide by 2. X is equal to negative 3 over 2. Put them together, my answer is x is equal to negative 3 over 2, because that's the smaller number, or 0. Zero product property. Remember, a zero product property requires a multiplication product to be able to do. If there's an addition or subtraction, not a product. You've got to do some factoring to create a product. All right? Good luck on the practice.